Welcome to Ask the Expert, where we bring you the top experts on dog health, training, grooming, and more. You ask it and we answer it. I'm Marissa Sarbach. Thank you for joining us today. This week on Ask the Expert, we are talking about agility. So we have top trainer and AKC Agility World team member Diane Goodspeed in studio. She is joining us to talk all about agility. And Diane, so happy to have you with us. First time on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about your experience and how long you've been doing agility.
I've been doing agility for over 2 decades. I started with obedience and then dabbled a little in rally. And my dogs have over 11 Master Agility Championships.
And your dog that you brought in with us today is Zynga, right?
Is Zynga, yes.
So tell me how long you've been working with her. I know she's 7 years old.
Yes, Zinga's 7, and she's been training since she was about a year. She does not have one of those Master Agility Championships, but she is one of the funnest dogs I've ever had to run.
And she's very cute. She looks
yes.
very excited to be here.
Yes, she's very happy.
Well, I do want to remind everybody, if this is your first time watching the show, sending us your questions is very simple. You just go to facebook.com/American Kennel Club and comment your question below on this video. So Diane, first tell us a little bit about what agility is for people who've never done it before.
Agility is basically obstacle course racing with your dog. The dogs do the obstacles, you have to run around and show them which obstacles to take in which order, and you're running against the clock.
And so this is something you could either do at home or even do like you do and compete in this.
You can compete, and you can play a lot of agility in your yard, and the dogs love it. They have a lot of fun with all the obstacles.
And I can assume there are a lot of benefits for maybe both the dog and the human in agility?
Yes, there are. Basically, agility is playtime with your dog. You're out playing, you're in your yard, you're in a class, they love it. You're getting a lot of exercise. Both you and the dog are exercising a lot. It also helps timid dogs get more confident because they get to master new things, and they know they did it right, and they know they got to learn new things, and they get a lot of confidence out of that. And you and the dog, while you're doing all that, are building teamwork and a bond that's just, it's impossible to master, to get anywhere else.
You can tell you guys are inseparable, but Zynga just really wants to be near you, which is great to see, and listens really well from what we see so far.
Yes, yes.
So how would you know if your dog is ready for agility, and what type of dog would be ready for agility?
Any dog can do agility, so that's an easy one. The first consideration is age. The small breeds have to be 8 to 9 months old before we start. The large breeds, probably closer to a year is better. They should be fit. We can't really take them from the couch and ask them to climb a 5-foot A-frame. There's a little bit of fitness involved. It's always wise to get them evaluated by your vet first to make sure there's no underlying health conditions. And I believe Dr. Klein just did a wonderful show on that, so people could reference that. And they have to be ready to train. They need a little bit of obedience. They need to be under control in a lot of different environments, and they need to be off leash, which is important.
So there's a lot that goes into that, even just being able to know that your dog is going to listen to you once you unclip that leash.
Yes, yes, because when you unclip the leash and there's someone else running through the tunnel, we sometimes lose them.
And you don't want that to happen.
No, we don't like that.
So in terms of pre-agility training, what would you say that you and Zynga had to go through, and what would you say other dogs and owner handlers would have to do?
We start with taking the dogs to lots of different environments. Pet-friendly stores are great. Walking around in towns where they hear and see different noises and see different sights, that's always great. Trick training is a really good choice, so is rally. And basic obedience is always in there.
Is there a timeline for you, a point in time where you say, I know Zynga's ready to be taken off leash and to train this way?
Yes, once you go through basic obedience, you can start a lot of the exercises with the dog on leash, and you just gain confidence and knowledge in what your dog's going to be able to handle.
Okay. And in terms of starting those obstacles, what do you have to do beforehand to train for that?
Okay, so we start with basic obedience. Let's get Zynga up here. She's been very obedient so far.
She has been.
Come here, Zynga. Yes. We start with basic sits and the down. Can you do down? Can you do down? Yes, good girl. Okay. And then we work our way up to some of the more advanced exercises. Ready? Can you back up? Can you back up? Back up, back up. Zing, back up. Zing, back, 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 back. Yes, there we go. Okay, come. Good.
So how long would it take Zynga or any dog to learn how to back up and do that command?
These are very, very basic. And in a class, this would be like one session with a little bit of homework, okay? Because the dog's, there we go. Good girl, can you spin? Yes, good girl. How about again? Spin, spin. Yes, Zing's getting into it. Good girl, catch. Good girl, go get that one. And
so
then
the spin might take a little bit longer to train.
Spin takes a little bit longer, but again, we start close. She's showing off a little bit here, but you can see they like chasing the cookies. So, and we use a lot of rewards. It's almost all positive reinforcement and lots of treats.
Do you get to a point when a dog is as trained as Zynga or even further and beyond, do you get to a point where you don't need to use treats anymore and they just listen to your voice?
We do. When they're the competitions, you don't use cookies, and they really get reinforced for doing the obstacles. That's one of the fun parts about agility. So you do wean off the treats, and you go on to toys. Yeah, and just voice praise.
Well,
yeah.
She seems to be loving the food, absolutely.
Yes.
What would you go to next, Diane, after you've trained those obedience ground skills?
Yes. Our next step would be to use an obstacle. I've brought along cones today. It doesn't really matter what you use. You can use anything that's available. Come here, Zing. We frequently tell people to use the kitchen chairs. If you're inside and it's a snowstorm, we play with anything that's around. Ready? Okay, Zing, go around. Yes. And what we're asking her to do here is just follow my hand signals in different patterns. Ready? Go around. Because this is the beginning of getting her to follow my commands on an obstacle course where I'm indicating which obstacle to take. So this is the very, very basic process of asking her to go around each cone versus even doing a figure 8 where I'm also switching hands. So this is just the basics of can you listen and can you watch.
Do you find this one to be a difficult one to teach, to go around the cones, or are there any that are more difficult than others?
It depends a little bit on the dog. She's pretty well trained. Some of the dogs take a little longer to pick up the pattern, but they do pick it up pretty quick.
All right. What would you do after your dog has mastered, like Zynga, the cones?
Then we move on to the obstacles. Okay.
All right. If you don't mind demonstrating, I think everybody would love to see that.
We'll watch some of the obstacles. Come here. Okay. So, Zing, come here. Come here. So Zing's like, I like this one. Come here. Let's do this. Come over here. Sit. So each of the obstacles is introduced one at a time, and we're using this as our tunnel. It's 2 feet long. A normal tunnel is anywhere between 12 and 15 feet long, and Zing's gonna just get lured through it. Come on through, right? So they get used to going through things. Yes. And then we ask them, sit, sit. Can you sit? Sit. We ask them to wait, and you notice throughout this, I'm asking her to stay under control and to continue using her obedience even though we're letting her play with the obstacle. Ready?
So really you're keeping going with that original obedience groundwork that you've done, and you just want to build on top of that.
Yes, we always reinforce that because we don't want to lose control over the dog at all during any of the training. Ready, Zing? Go tunnel.
How often does Zynga practice this?
3 or 4 times a week. A lot of people do a class and then a training session on their own for the week. So anywhere between 2 to 3 times a week is probably normal. There are people who are obsessed and train every day. Go get it, Zing.
I can see why, though. It becomes really fun for both the dog and the owner, it seems.
Yes, they really like it. And as she's getting comfortable with the tunnel, all I would do as a trainer, sit, sit, Zing, sit, sit. Yeah, I know, you want to go through the tunnel. Is we start to move, I know I said the word sit, is we start to move it further and further away. Ready? Okay, go tunnel. Yes, good girl, come back here. Yes, tunnel. Good girl, tunnel. Yes, go tunnel. Yes.
Diane, we do have our first question, and
Okay,
Michelle is wondering what you use for a treat when you do this with Zynga.
We use a variety of treats. What I'm using right now is just a little bit of kibble, actually, because she's getting so much of it. And that's something you have to consider with your health and fitness also. We don't want to overload them.
And I know you had mentioned high value treats. Is that something you save for competitions?
Yes, the higher value treat would be a chicken or a pork, beef, whatever. This is actually her breakfast.
Oh, there you go.
So we frequently train for a meal.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
And this is something that all dogs, or at least Zynga, seems to enjoy. And when I've seen agility competitions, this seems to be something that dogs like to do. It's like a physical and mental stimulation for them.
Yes, it is. It is both. And they love to learn new obstacles and new handling moves, and they get self-reinforced for doing the tunnels.
All right.
Yes.
Our next question is in two. Chuck says, do dogs start to forget some of their training as they get older or when they're not worked as much? Great question.
That is a very good question. And the answer is no. The dogs remember it. It's very much like you learning how to ride a bike. You might be a little bit rusty when you first get started again, but you remember how to do it. And the dogs remember more than the handlers. The handlers come back a little rusty. Yeah.
How long would you say it takes a dog to learn all of these skills that Zynga has learned?
It takes about a year for the dogs to learn everything they need to know and all the various obstacles. It's a slow progression. We introduce everything at low heights and in small sizes, and then we build up to the bigger and bigger equipment.
And what about for the owners and handlers? How long does it take them?
It takes the handlers a little bit longer. We usually count on 2 years to get the handlers actually in a competitive mode. If you're just training for your backyard, you can be playing on little short courses that really don't have too many challenges, and you can have a lot of fun with it in a much shorter time, maybe 6 months. But it does take a little while to build up the teamwork once the dog knows the obstacles.
And probably the longer that you work on this with your dog and the more often and frequently you go through these tunnels and cones, it probably just helps reinforce it in their mind.
Yes, it does. And we start with basic circles and then you work up into more and more complicated patterns.
And speaking of complicated patterns, I know you brought a few other items for us for the obstacle course.
Yes, we did.
Don't mind showing those?
Yes, stay here, Zane. You stay there. We'll switch.
She's very well trained, Diane. You can tell she loves this.
Yes. Yes, she's a very good little demo dog. She does this a lot for classes. Okay, so the next obstacle that we brought for Zynga to play with is the tire. In agility, the equipment comes in two forms, basically. We have the jumps, and then we have the contacts. The contacts are the A-frame, the dog walk, and the teeter-totter. The jumps are the tire jump, a regular jump, and then there's the spread jumps, much like you'd see in horse jumping. And the tire is just one of the funnest to play with. And Zynga will actually do the same thing she did with the tire, or with the tunnel, excuse me. Go through. Is we just ask her to hop back and forth over it. Good girl. Can you go back through? Yes. And you notice I'm just using cookies as a simple reinforcement. And then, as she gets proficient at it, and again, this would be several class sessions, we can start to raise it and ask her to jump. Yes, good girl. Can you jump that? Yes, good girl. Right.
Diane, can you tell if Zynga has a favorite?
Yes. Most dogs find the tunnels is their favorite. Come through. Yeah. But they also like the contacts quite a bit. But Zynga likes the contacts more than she likes the tunnels. She's not terribly fond of tire jumps. See? Jump.
Can you explain what a contact is if somebody's never heard of it?
Yes. A contact is an A-frame, which is a 5-foot-high A-frame shaped obstacle. We have a dog walk, which is 3 12-foot planks that are raised at about 4 feet. And then there's a pause table, which is a table actually that the dogs just jump on and sit for a few seconds. And then we have the teeter-totter. And we brought a small one for Zynga to play on. So let's go through that.
And while you're getting that set up, I do want to read our next question to you. Hank is asking if there are some breeds that are better at learning agility than others. I know we can tell Shelties love it.
Yes. Shelties and Border Collies are very, very common. They do love it. I have not found a breed, and I've trained over 100 different breeds in my classes that don't actually like agility. The herding breeds tend to take to it a little bit more, simply because they're used to working with a team, with the herding, with the handler and with the sheep. So you see quite a few of them, but if you go to an agility trial, you will see every breed.
Okay, and I'll let you demonstrate this one. So this is the Tibia Board.
This is the Tibia Board, which is a very, very small seesaw. The seesaw, the dogs go up and over it, and it tips as they come down. This one's tipping about 4 inches. The regular size seesaw tips 4 feet.
So that's more what we would see in competition.
We would see more in competition. And again, what we do with the baby Tibia Board is we're asking her to balance through the tip, which you can see doesn't bother Zynga in the slightest. And we also, when they're on the plank, come here, you can see she's very aware of where her feet are. Can you turn around? Yes. And she can turn around very easily on a 12-foot plank. If I was playing with a German Shepherd, this would be quite a bit different. Because Zynga is only about 4 inches wide, she fits easily on a 12-inch plank. A German Shepherd, or as you get into the larger breeds, the 12-foot wide plank is pretty narrow. So we spend a lot of time with the dogs making sure that they can balance and that they understand where their feet are. So Zynga can hold on her back feet, and you notice she'll keep her back feet on that board because she knows where it is. Come here, come off, come off, come off. Good. Come here. Okay, Zing, where's feet? There. Okay, so she knows exactly, come off, come off. Good girl, where's feet? Where's feet? Where's feet? Where's your feet? Come here. Where's feet? Yeah, good girl. So she can get her back feet back on there. Where's feet? Yes, good girl. So that's the kind of thing they need to know in obedience or in agility, because when they're running across the plank, they need to know where their body is so that they can stay on it and they don't fall off, which is a lot of the beginning training.
Is there a time that you would say you understand a dog is maybe too old to be still practicing agility, or can they do it up until however they feel they like to do it?
We just go backwards, and we just start with the older dogs as they get a little creaky or they start to have eye problems, which a lot of dogs have. We just start lowering the equipment again, and we kind of go right back down into puppy mode, where they start playing on just the tunnels and the jumps go very low, and then we keep them off the contacts.
But at least it keeps that mental stimulation
going.
I
have dogs that are training that are 12, 13 years old.
Aw.
Yes.
Probably great for them.
Yes, it is. They stay active, the handlers stay active, they're in a class, they love it.
Great. Yeah. Our next question is in. Kayla says, obedience-wise, how do you teach the understanding of turning off? I know the excitement and drive is encouraged for the agility course, but how do you teach being off or calm when not working?
Yes, that's a big part, because you have to wait your turn, you have to wait in class, and the off switch, as we call it in agility, is very, very important. And we start with them when they're very little. Zing, come here. Come here. Yes, I know. We start with them when they're very little, and we ask them to pay attention to us instead of what's going on around them. And there's a lot of games that we play with them with that. And that, again, is taking them out in an environment and asking them to be calm away from the agility and then bringing them into agility slowly.
Do you find that to be a difficult thing, is to be able to tell them when to turn it off? Is that probably more of the difficult part?
It can be a difficult exercise for some dogs. Again, it varies by breed, and it varies by what's going on. There's a lot of dogs that find the tunnels very overstimulating because the dogs are flying through them, and there's this wonderful little noise that they make, and that can really set off some dogs. So again, we just move those dogs further away and ask them to be calm and let them come up slowly. Other dogs are like this one, have a pretty good off switch.
And just completely focus on you to know what you're doing, which is great.
Which, again, we go back to basic obedience. Yeah.
Our next question is in. Margaret says, what is the hardest agility obstacle to learn?
Oh, that's easy. That's the weave poles.
Oh, and we don't have that one here today.
We do not have the weave poles. It's very hard to learn weave poles. The weave poles are 12 poles that are 2 feet apart. They're 24 inches apart, and there's 12 of them, and the dogs have to weave between the poles.
And they have to do it very quickly.
Yes, speed is always a component because we're running against the clock and against the other competitors. And weaving is not a natural skill to any breed. Most dogs will play in a tunnel, and most dogs will play on a contact. They'll play on these types of boards.
There you go. That's the weave poles right there, right?
Yes, that's the weave poles. Yes.
And the papillons seem to do really well with it.
Yes, yes. Andrea has wonderful little papillons, and they just love to weave. Some of the dogs, yeah. But it does take a long time to teach that.
Do you find the smaller breeds do well with something like that, the weave poles, or the larger dogs? Do certain dogs excel at other obstacles?
There really isn't a difference in the weave pulls. It is truly a trained skill, and you literally go in a very slow progression, and it is the one that takes the longest. It can take up to 9 months to teach weave pulls. Yes. And that kind of performance that you just saw took a little bit longer.
A little bit longer.
But as far as the obstacles go, they all kind of pick their favorites. But Zynga likes the contacts. The Border Collies tend to love the tunnels, so do the Terriers. And the obstacles are all different, so some of the dogs do love to weave the best.
And we do have another comment in from Ellen, and she says, I would love to teach my female Sheltie agility, but there isn't anywhere close to do it. What would you tell Ellen?
Yes. Agility grew up in the age of the internet, and there are wonderful classes that are available online. The AKC store has great DVDs where you can start on your own. There's a lot of good books out there that show all of the training, and a lot of the material is equipment that you can buy easily on your own. The AKC store has a wonderful little kit that has several jumps and a play tunnel in it that will get you a long way in your agility training.
So this is really something that you could start in your own backyard. You don't need to go to a specific class for it.
You don't have to go to a class. The class environment has the advantage of you build in that off switch while you're doing your training, which in your backyard you probably aren't going to need. So the class environment simulates more of a competitive environment, but you can do a lot of the training in your yard. And most people who come to classes, within several months, their question is, where can I buy my own stuff?
It's addicting. You want to do it, yeah.
Because they want to do it at home, and they're like, well, if I have a tunnel, what can I do? So, we kind of guide them through purchasing their own equipment.
Great. Our next question is in from Heidi. Do you think guide wires are a good way to introduce the weave poles?
Yes. Guide wires, we're getting a little far down the path here in training, but yes, guide wires work very well for training agility. Those are wires for those people who don't understand the question. The weave poles, there's 12 of them, and the guide wires create kind of a channel for the dog that shows them the exact pattern that they have to go through. So it's a very easy way for dogs to start to learn to weave.
Do you find the weave poles the most difficult to teach and the most difficult for the dogs to learn?
Yes.
Even for Bazinga?
Yes.
She seems so well trained.
Yes, and yes. The weave poles are not natural. I can put any piece of equipment in my yard, and I have to be careful because the puppies will go play on it. The weave poles, they don't. I've never seen a dog go at a set of weave poles and go, oh, I know what to do with these. I'll weave them. They look at it almost as a fence. Yeah.
Diane, is there anything else you want to tell anyone who's tuning in today to learn about agility or anything else they should know?
I think the only other thing to consider is where you start your dog. We touched on it a little bit. You can look around for classes. A great resource is your vet. Most vets in your area know where classes are. You can look for your obedience instructors will always know where to go for agility. Your pet training people. If you really want to compete, you can also look for a private trainer.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Diane.
Thank you.
Bazinga. You were great. She did great demonstrations. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on here.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So if you want to watch any great agility athletes like Diane and her Shelties, you can watch AKC TV's coverage of the 2019 AKC National Agility Championships, where some of the top dogs from all around the world gathered to compete. That can be found on akc.tv, and just click on the events tab. That's all for today. I'm Marissa Sarback. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy to have you with us. Next week on Ask the Expert, a healthy gut is vital to the well-being of both humans and animals. And apart from tummy rubs, there's plenty you can do for your dog's belly. We'll have Chief Veterinary Officer Dr. Jerry Klein on the show. He'll be talking all about proper gut health. Then catch us this Friday on all-new AKC Dog Center at 12 o'clock. Noon Eastern Standard Time. We are bringing you the latest dog news from the American Kennel Club. We also release a new Breed of the Day video every weekday, and that's at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And then tomorrow we have a brand new episode of Bud Bacone's In the Doghouse at noon Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to download AKC TV on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire. You can also download our app on Google Play and iOS. Of course, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We love chatting with you and seeing all of your comments. AKC TV, sit, stay, watch.